Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Mackenzie, aka Astromac. I'm a professional astrologer and I'm here to talk all things astrology with you. Today I want to talk about the beautiful new moon happening in the sign of Gemini. That's exact on Monday, May 26th at 10:02 p.m. Central Time, and it's at 6 degrees and 5 minutes of Gemini. And this particular new moon is not just about setting intentions and manifesting, although it is about that, but it's also about rewiring your mind and reclaiming your voice and speaking your truth into existence. It's bringing a mental reset with the power to transform how we think, speak, and tell our stories. So let's pull up the chart and dive right in. Now, as we can see here, this is the chart for Central Time, so depending on where you are in the world, it might look a little bit different, so try to ignore the houses. But as we can see here, the sun and the moon are conjunct in the sky. That's what a new moon is when the sun and the moon come together in the sky and they form a conjunction and they're blending their energies, and really it just signals the beginning of a new cycle. And new moons are always associated with new beginnings. So this is going to be a really good time to be more reflective and be intentional and really reflect on those things that you want to nurture and grow over the upcoming months. Because this new moon is happening in the sign of Gemini, this means it's we're getting a blank canvas or a blank page, and it's presenting us with this opportunity to rewrite those stories and rewrite the narrative that we tell ourselves. And keep in mind that these stories all begin just as a thought, and then those thoughts become words, and then you repeat something enough times and it becomes a story, which eventually becomes a belief. Now, this Gemini energy is being accentuated even more because the ruler of this new moon, being Mercury, just ingressed into Gemini, its home sign, and it's closely conjunct this new moon. So this is supercharged Gemini energy. If you haven't watched my Gemini 101 video yet, this would be a good time to go back and watch that, because I go into detail about Gemini as a sign and an archetype, and it just gives you a better idea of what we can expect with this new moon. But basically, Gemini is this sign that's all about thinking and ideas and taking in information and sharing ideas and sharing information and sharing knowledge, whether that's through writing or speaking or teaching or even podcasting. It's also all about communication and making human-to-human connections and asking all the questions and being curious and learning. There's just this strong desire to communicate and connect with Gemini energy. And something that I forgot to say in my Gemini 101 video that I noticed after it had already been posted, of course, but a huge part of communication is listening, and part of listening includes being open-minded and having mental flexibility. And so when we've got the sun, moon, and Mercury all closely conjunct, this is a time to pay attention to your thoughts and notice your thoughts and notice what kind of thoughts you're having. And then, pay attention to how your thoughts make you feel, emotionally, but also physically in your body. And the challenge whenever we have a lot of air sign energy in a new moon chart is, don't just think about your emotions and don't just think about how you're feeling, but rather let yourself feel and feel how you're feeling. And again, just take note and notice how those thoughts and how those stories you tell yourself, how they make you feel. Because with this Mercury moon so closely conjunct, this is going to be a time where we're going to be feeling our thoughts even more deeply. And so this is a really potent opportunity to be really honest with yourself and, don't delude yourself, but be real about yourself and how your own inner dialogue has a way of affecting how you live your life and how you think about yourself and how you think about the people around you and the world around you, because it's all reflected in some way. And then really reflect on those things that you're ready to rewire in your own brain, your own thoughts, and reflect on those things that you're ready to rewrite in the script and the narrative of your own life. And I know in this day and age that we're living in, it can kind of feel hard to view the world in a positive light. And I'm not telling you to ignore what's going on in the world and pretend that everything is all peachy and it's all wonderful and whimsical, because that's not being honest and that's not being helpful or truthful. But at the same time, if you feel hopeless about the world, that's not going to be helpful for yourself or for the rest of the world, really. It all begins with the self. And so if you can change how you view yourself and how you view the people around you and the world, that has a ripple effect, and it ripples out into the world. And more and more people, the more and more people that do that, the better the world will be. So no like false or toxic positivity, none of that here. So this new moon is a really great opportunity to explore new ways of thinking and explore new ideas and explore new perspectives and even explore like new directions and really use your voice to share your message. Whether that's like one-on-one with your friends or publicly or, privately, like in your journal, or you keep it to like your voice memos. There's a bunch of different ways that we can use our voice. This is also a really good opportunity to pay attention to those things that you're curious about and, those things that you feel excited to learn more about. Because Gemini is that sign that's all about staying curious. And so if there's something that you've been wanting to learn more about, or like you've been wanting to take a class about, or just something that you've been wanting to like deepen your knowledge about, this is a really powerful time to kind of go down that path and explore it a little bit deeper and see where it leads you. Even if it's just like learning for the sake of learning, like there's usually something to that, and there's usually a reason why we're curious or interested in those things that we're interested in. So depending on where this new moon is happening for you, like if it's happening in your third or ninth house, then this might be a time where you want to go back to school, or where you want to take a course, or learn about a new subject, or like learn a new language, for example. Just try to be open and pay attention to like those ideas or those subtle curiosities that pique your interest, and just write them down and take note. There's also like a very beautiful transformative energy that's coming along with this new moon, that can really help us rewire and rewrite those stories and transform those stories in a way, because it's trine the planet Pluto in Aquarius. And Pluto is that planet of transformation and regeneration and death and rebirth, and it's also like a very powerful catalyst, really wanting us to reclaim our power. Pluto kind of brings like this X-ray vision that's like, let's look at what's underneath the surface here. So this isn't just like this Gemini lighthearted chit chat and mental chatter. Pluto really brings transformative and deep communication. So you might uncover like a hidden truth, or speak a new boundary, or commit to a new way of thinking that really upgrades and transforms your path in some way. It's really encouraging us to dig beneath the surface and uncover those hidden truths and kind of like find the core of those stories that we tell ourselves. I had this visual of how like, it's kind of like we're doing these mental excavations in order to have these powerful realizations about ourselves. And Pluto is really assisting us and helping us to rewrite some of those like really deep stories and beliefs that we might have about ourselves, and even some of those like mental compulsions or those mental, patterns that we've repeated over and over again. This new moon is also forming a loose sextile to both Neptune and Saturn, both newly in the sign of Aries. It's kind of like this new moon is welcoming Saturn into this new era in a way. And Saturn really brings structure and form to things. And, it's that planet of discipline and hard work and responsibility and accountability. And, it's that planet that's like, it's like those long-term visions and goals that we have for ourselves. So with this connection with Saturn, this would be a good time to do something in the physical. And, Gemini rules over writing. So this would be a good time to write down your intentions or those things that you want to manifest. And the sun just decided to come out, so I guess that's confirmation. So try to get like really clear on those things that you want to manifest and write them down, and then be ready to move like full speed ahead. Because this is really like giving form in order to build something that has that potential to be long lasting. So these intentions that we're setting during this new moon have that potential to really grow into something real. This new moon is that kind of energy where like when you are aware of your thoughts and aware of your mental patterns and your mental compulsions, and if you have that willingness to rewrite those stories, then this is the kind of energy that has the potential to bring positive change to your life in a big and very real way. Because remember, everything begins as a thought. It's like our thoughts are those seeds being planted, and so you want to plant seeds of kindness and compassion, and talk to yourself with kindness and compassion, and then building a habit around that where it's like, this new way of thinking of yourself and talking to yourself really becomes this solid foundation of love and compassion and kindness in your life. Also remember that Saturn is that planet of accountability, so you have to be the one to take accountability for yourself and take accountability for those thoughts and the stories that you're telling yourself and those stories that you're choosing to repeat to yourself over and over again. And then the sextile to Neptune kind of brings like this dreamy, visionary, imaginative quality to this new moon. And I think that sometimes when we think about imagination, we think about like this fantasy world or, even like the arts and artists. And yes, it is a very fruitful time for those things. But when you think about it, we really use our imagination like on a daily basis, pretty much. Like, think about, when we come up with these fake scenarios in our head and we're kind of leaning into this energy of fear or anxiety, that's when we create these fake scenarios that hold ourselves back in a way. Whereas if we can lean into this energy of like magic and whimsy and having faith in ourselves and in humanity, then we're able to use our imagination in a much healthier way. I feel like sometimes we forget that we get to choose the things that we think and we get to choose those things that we believe. And so, why not believe those things that serve us in some way? Now, let's talk about some ways to use this new moon and this new moon energy. Number one would be definitely use this time and this energy to be setting those new moon intentions and try not to just like think them, but rather like physically write them down and get them onto like a piece of paper. It's a time to just like get your thoughts out of your head and onto something physical, whether that's, a piece of paper or you could even do it like on your notes app in your phone. But with this new moon being in Gemini and it's forming a sextile to Saturn, I really encourage you to like get out a pen or pencil and physically write down your intentions. Journaling is another way to really work with the energy of this new moon and like journaling about those things that we talked about earlier with like it being like limiting thoughts that you have about yourself or some of those stories that you might be telling yourself that don't serve you. And journaling about like where those stories might come from or when they come up for you the most. And then reflecting on if those stories or those thoughts are even true. Because, I myself had a new awareness of a story that I've been telling myself for like years and years. The fact of the matter is, it's not even like a cold hard truth, it's just a story that I've told myself over and over that eventually became a limiting belief. And so now that it's like in my conscious awareness that this is a limiting thought that I have about myself, when it comes up, I'm able to challenge it more easily and counter it with a thought that serves me better. And so for me, I'll be, writing intentions about rewriting that story. You could also like speak your thoughts and your ideas and your intentions out loud to the universe as if they already existed. And so you could use like your voice notes or you could even use like TikTok or video, it just has to be for you. It's not like you have to share it with anyone unless you want to. Part of this new moon is about reclaiming your voice. So, using your voice and being, proud of your voice and your story. That's like that first step. Another good way to use this energy is to kind of clear away any mental clutter you might have. So like by doing a nice big brain dump and getting all those thoughts out. And I guess that kind of goes back to like my journaling earlier, so that you could also like tie this in as well. But just getting like those thoughts out that are like fogging up your mind and like cluttering your thinking and making you feel like scattered or all over the place. This new moon is kind of like a mental reset button for our mind. And so it's a great time to journal and meditate and do a brain dump of all those scattered thoughts and then really ask yourself like, what's mine and what's true and what am I done carrying? Like with all this Gemini energy, I kind of have this visual of like, we have 84 tabs open on our computer, and so it's causing our computer to like overheat and, work too hard sometimes. So maybe like writing down those tabs that are open and closing out 50 of those if you feel ambitious. Because it's not nice to feel like mentally scattered and like our thoughts are all over the place and we're having a million thoughts at once. I'm mostly speaking to myself right now because I have a ton of open tabs open, both in my mind and on my computer. This is also a great time to feed your curiosity and learn something new and set intentions around learning something new of those things that you're curious about and really allowing yourself to follow that curiosity and just see where it leads you. Gemini energy is also like a very fun and playful sign, so you could set intentions around, incorporating more fun and play into your life. So to try and summarize, with this Gemini new moon, this is kind of like our invitation to reclaim our voice and speak our truth and rewrite our mindset and those stories that we tell ourselves. And it's a time of staying open-minded and curious and following our curiosity. And it's a time of exploring new ideas and exploring new places and exploring new ways of perceiving and viewing the world. Let me know down in the comments what intentions you're speaking into existence, and if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe and share with your other friends that might be curious about astrology. And if you're wanting more personal guidance on whether it's this new moon or any other upcoming transits, you can always book a reading with me at the link down below. And yeah, I think that's all I've got for this Gemini new moon, and so until next time, love you, bye!